If you're watching this video, it's probably because you're considering starting a podcast. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the top 5 myths of podcasting. Welcome to Lifestyle Savant. Let's get into it. The first myth of podcasting is that it's easy and it doesn't take much time. Couldn't be farther from the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Podcasting can take a lot of time. But listen, it depends on what your goals are. If you just want to interview your friends and family and neighbors, it's probably not going to be that time consuming. Maybe you don't need to do any in-depth editing. But if you really want to shoot for the stars and interview A-list celebrities and well-known influencers, it can take a lot more time. If you want something that's really doctored up, heavily edited, background music, solid professional intros, it's certainly going to take a bit more time. Marketing can take a lot of time. A lot of podcasting is not actually creating the product, but it's letting people know that you have a podcast. That takes time and effort. That said, that is going to pay off dividends. Your podcast is going to pay off dividends, not just because of how easy or how much time it takes, but the experience and the network that you will build. The second podcasting myth is that it's going to make you rich quick. Sorry, couldn't be further from the truth. Podcasting does create revenue, and the Awesome Dad Show does bring in money from sponsors, from affiliate links, and from Patreon pages, and merchandise that I sell on my store. But it's not going to make you rich. You're not going to pay all of your bills off a podcast. Most people are not going to end up like Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or Dax Shepard. That said, a podcast is very effective at creating awareness. And so you can use a podcast to establish yourself as an expert and drive awareness to a product or a brand. Maybe you sell shoes and you want people to know about your shoes. Well, a podcast is a good way of letting people know organically about your service and about your expertise. It doesn't have to be necessarily selling, but you're building your brand. You start your podcast today and someone in 2 years might listen to it. And then all of a sudden you've got a fan for life. It's very, very effective. It's not get rich quick. You're probably not going to make millions of dollars on a podcast, but you develop your brand and you drive awareness to your movement. The third myth of podcasting is that you need expensive equipment to start. Couldn't be farther from the truth, and I hate this excuse. There's no better day than today. Because listen, all you really need to start your podcast is this, your smartphone. You can do everything you need on your smartphone. There are completely free apps like Anchor, completely free. Anchor. Download the app, start producing your podcast today. You can actually start advertising day one. I'll put a link below to Anchor. I personally use Libsyn and I love it. It's a little bit more work to get it going and it costs me $15 per month, $15 per month. It's not exactly breaking the bank. A podcast does not take a lot of money to start. This whole rig, this whole podcasting hardware setup that I have cost me about $100. It doesn't take a ton of money to get your podcast started. Do not let that be the reason why you don't start today. And I'll have links below to my equipment and to the software that I use in producing this show. The fourth myth of podcasting is that your customers won't listen. Listen, this is a huge lie that people tell themselves. It's an absolute excuse to not get started. Podcasts are absolutely blowing up. And it's actually one of the problems. It's very cheap to play, so you have a lot of people in the game. But it can be very powerful at building your brand and your business and your message. But more and more people are listening to podcasts every day. There's a lot of stats out there, but over the past decade, podcast listenership has basically quadrupled, and it is not stopping. More and more people are listening to podcasts. Less people are listening to the radio. Podcasts are extremely convenient, first of all. You listen on your phone, you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can fast forward it. I get in my car, I listen to it automatically in Bluetooth. I get out, I pop in my headphones, I'm listening to it. You can listen to your podcast anyway. You can download it on your phone, and you can listen to a podcast when you're not even on the internet. People are listening to podcasts. If you're telling yourself that your target demographic is not listening to podcasts, you are lying to yourself. I'm telling you, they are listening to podcasts. You are probably listening to podcasts. Look at where you're at right now. You're here on YouTube listening to me talk to you about podcasts. That tells me that your demographic is absolutely listening to podcasts. The fifth myth of podcasting is that it's too technical and you're just not going to have the know-how. Listen, stop lying to yourself. It's not that hard. Sure, you need to know how to do some basics, but the fact that you're on YouTube now tells me that you have the skills to do it, and I'm certainly happy to help you. But listen, creating a podcast takes time, and you're going to need to learn some new skills. But the skills that you're going to learn are going to be incredibly relevant, not just now, but in the coming decades. Start your podcast today. It is not that technical. You can absolutely do it. Thanks for watching the show, and write a comment below. What are the myths that you are telling yourself about podcasting? Why haven't you started yet? What are you concerned about? I'd love to hear and love to talk to you about starting your own podcast today. Until next time, this is Lifestyle Savant, and I will catch you next time. Peace.